What's up, guys? My name is Tim. This is New Craft Workshop. If you've been here before, welcome back. As always, we truly appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for the love and support you've given our channel. Big announcement at the end of this video. So yeah, you got to stick around to see what's in store for you guys at the end of this video. If you've never been here before, welcome in. Glad you finally decided to join us, but what took you so long?
It's about time.
This is a cool little series we got going. We do 3-shot projects most of the time. Today we're doing 2, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Most of the time we do 3-shot projects with 3 tools or less: a saw, a hammer and nails, and a drill/driver. We cheat. We use a brad nailer, battery powered, and we use our miter saw because, you know, sometimes we cheat.
He's a phony.
Lousy cheater.
Sometimes we cheat because we're out here building this pretty fast, trying to get this video up. So today we got 2 cool projects, and then section 3 today we're actually going to talk about some tools that you guys as beginners probably should buy as you start your journey. Disclaimer, just my opinion, but I'm going to give you 4 or 5, maybe 6 tools that I think you need to start your woodworking journey, because, you know, that's the cool thing to say right now. Everybody in the world is on some kind of journey, so we're going to join it and we're going to go on a journey. So anyway, couple quick things before we get to today's builds. Number 1, this video is sponsored by Basecamp Dust Masks. I have actually mentioned them before on the channel, and if you are like me, you won't wear your PPE if it is not comfortable. This mask is made out of neoprene. It is extremely soft, very comfortable, removable, replaceable filters, and the mask itself you can throw in the washing machine. Right now, click the link below to get to their website. Use my promo code here on the screen. Now till I think Christmas Day itself. I might be off a little bit, but I know like for the whole next month, starting now, 20% off every single thing on their website. Actually winds up being cheaper through their website than it is on Amazon, which is hard to beat, and we all know that. But yeah, pick yourself up a mask. This has become my go-to here in the shop. It's the only mask I've ever worn out in my shop that I don't mind wearing. So that's it for that. Like I said, we got a couple builds today. Information at the end of the video about something really cool that's about to happen. And then section 3 is going to be some tool talk about what you guys need to buy. So enough talk. Let's get right after project number 1. All right, project 1 is that cool little keychain, key rack, watch rack, phone holder, kind of multi-function piece of thing you just saw there.
Well, what is it?
Sorry, I don't know what to call it, but yeah, it's one of those days. I'm kind of all over the place already, and I just started. But this is going to be a pretty quick, easy, simple build, but as you can see, this thing looks really cool, and it serves a really nice function. On this channel, we give you a blueprint. My build today is going to give you some inspiration to get out in your shop and make things better than I make them, customize them, make them bigger, smaller, shorter, taller, like I tell you guys all the time. If you've been here before, you know what's coming. Make it your own. So let's get right after this, like we do with every single build here on our channel, and let's start with our cut list. You are going to need a 1x4 cut to 12 inches long. This is going to serve as our base. We have a 1x2. We are going to cut 2 pieces of this. One is going to be 7 inches long. One is going to be 9 inches long. These 2 pieces are going to come together in our corner to form our little bracket with a miter joint. We're going to make 45-degree cuts on that to form our bracket. You are going to need 2 pieces of wooden dowel. I am using 5/8 inch diameter. I wouldn't go any smaller than 1/2 inch. You want something that's going to look proportionate to this build, as well as something sturdy enough to hold your keys. Don't go using some tiny little dowel that's going to wind up breaking. So that's it for our cut list. Now, let's get to our tool list. Pretty simple build, so we're going to need a few tools that everybody should have a saw to cut this to length. A miter box for your saw if you don't have one. As always, there will be a link down below that'll help you cut a little bit more accurate 45-degree than trying to eyeball it and cut it by hand. We are going to need our brad nailer or hammer and nails, and we are going to need our drill with a 5/8 inch bit. I will be using a Forstner bit, but you feel free to use a standard 5/8 diameter drill bit for your 5/8 inch dowel. That's it. Oh, wood glue, brads, and one screw. Yeah. All right. So first things first, we've got a scrap piece I pulled out, and it actually happened to be 12 inches long already. So that's the size that we're making this today. So we've got our 12-inch base. Now our 1x2, we are going to make 2 mitered cuts on this. We're going to need one at 7 inches and one at 9 inches. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to put a mark at 7 from this end. This is also a scrap piece of wood, and if you're like me, you've got plenty of scrap laying around to do this kind of stuff. So we've got our 7-inch piece over here, our 9-inch piece over here, and from this mark, we're going to cut a 45 going this direction, and from this piece, 45. It really doesn't matter. Cut yours this way, it doesn't matter, because as long as you've got a 45 on one end of this, they're going to come together and form our right angle. The other end is going to remain square. That's why I just marked over from one end. So let's head over to the miter saw and get these 2 angles cut. All right, we're back from the miter saw and we've made our cuts. And as you can see, this is kind of what we're going for. We just want this to come together, form a nice miter joint. We're going to glue this, and I'm actually going to tack this in place. However, if you have the time and the patience, which I don't when I'm filming these videos, you can simply glue this up, tape this together, put you some painter's tape around the outside of this joint, let this sit for about an hour, and this is going to be plenty strong enough to hold your keys and your watch. I'm going to tack mine because, again, I don't have the time nor patience right now.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I'm not going to lie. Today's Thursday. I am filming this, and I still have to edit the video, and you're watching it today. Right now is yesterday. So today is yesterday, and yesterday's, you know what I mean, right? So let's get this done. Tack this in place. Just make sure your miter corners are lined up nice and flush. That will save you a lot of work when it comes to sanding afterwards. And a couple brads in either side. Again, probably overkill. It's going to get puttied up anyway. All right, so let's get these holes drilled. If you're using a 1x2 from the big box store, you know 1x2 is not 1 inch by 2 inch. It's 3/4 by 1.5 inches. So to find half of 3/4, we need to be at 3/8. And we're just going to mark the center of our board. And where those 2 lines intersect is where we are going to drill our 3/8 inch holes for our dowels. Now, I like using my drill press, but I don't want to cheat with every single tool we use. Plus, some of you have gone down in the comments and said, hey, why aren't you using hand tools when you tell us to use hand tools if we don't have a power tool? And you say it's so easy, and why don't? So today I'm going to drill some holes with my hand drill instead of using the drill press. So happy? Okay. Forstner bit. I'm using a Forstner bit because that's what I prefer. If you'll notice, the Forstner bit has the ground down shank, which is kind of a silver finish, bare metal, and then we have this coated area right here, which is black. I'm going to just use the end of this black mark right here as my depth gauge when I drill these holes. And one of the most important things you can do when you're drilling your hole, whether it's with a Forstner bit or a regular drill bit, is to make sure our hole is straight. A crooked hole means a crooked dowel, and I've told you this before on this channel, nobody likes a crooked dowel.
That's what she said.
We are going to drill our hole, and I'm going to take my time here and make sure that I am nice and as straight as I can be, doing this by hand. We have our 2 holes drilled. It's time to get this thing put together. we're going to use some glue, drop it on our dowels, put those in place, glue our base, one screw through the bottom that we're going to countersink, and we are done. First thing I'm going to do real quick, I am going to run this over the sander real quick. If you have a sander, use it. If you just have some sandpaper, just kind of rough up the edge. It's going to help the dowel get down in that hole. And then the other end that's going to be sticking out that's exposed, we definitely want to kind of take this sharp edge off of that. The side where we're putting our keys on, let's just kind of round that over a little bit. All right, some glue. Don't need a lot. These are going to fit fairly tight in this hole anyway. Glue is just going to hold it until it sets up completely. And as you can see, I couldn't find my hammer. Luckily, I had a spare piece of wood laying around, because use what's at your disposal. But as you can see, how these are sitting out, they're equal. I do have a slightly crooked dowel, sorry, but that's what happens when you do it by hand, and that's what's going to make every single piece you make out in your shop unique. Look at it that way, right? Let's be positive. So by cutting our dowels the same length and making sure we drilled our holes the same depth, at least we know that they are sticking out from this the same amount. So next thing we're going to do is we are going to countersink and drive a screw up from the bottom of this. I am going to, as always, lay this on here, eyeball it center to center, and then I'm going to put a pin mark right here. That pin mark is going to represent where our hole is going to be drilled. And as you can see here, there's already a hole drilled because I used this on another one. Earlier today, I was filming this video and went through this entire process, and one of my cameras wasn't on. So we're going to reuse this piece. So basically, we're going to put a mark here. That's where we want our hole drilled. We're going to flip this over, and we are going to countersink from the back side. We're going to go through this. When we flip this back over, that hole is going to be centered right in the center of our material, and that's going to hold this thing in place while this glue sets up. So, little tip. If you'll take your screw and start it in your hole until the sharp point of the tip protrudes, you can then take your material and set it in place and push down a little bit, and that will kind of hold your material there, because the glue, if you've ever tried to glue end grain like this to this, if you've ever tried to glue a piece like this to a piece like this, you know this is going to slide around on you a little bit. Popping that screw through the other side is just going to kind of keep this in place, allow you to have some stability while you do this, which is drive your screw in. I don't know if any of that made sense. Seriously, man, I don't know what's up today. I have had my coffee, which I needed, and I'm out here and I can't get my stuff together. I feel like I'm all over the place. Back to the build. Before this dries up, let's make sure we spin this just a little bit. Make sure that this component is nice and straight and even with our base. All right, that's it. Build number one. A couple scrap pieces of 1x2, a couple pieces of dowel, and a scrap of 1x4, and we've got this really functional, cool little thing that we can put our keys, our watch, our phones, whatever on. As you saw in the intro video, it looks great and it's functional. Take my blueprint, customize it, make it your own. Send me pictures, please. I'm asking. Like, I don't know how many more times I got to ask you guys that. All right, that's it. Build number one is a wrap. It's time for build number two. All right, let's get after build number two. So build number two is that cedar picket planter that you just saw. Now this is another one of those things. This is completely customizable. I made mine this particular size because that's how I felt like making it. But you could make this thing an entire cedar picket long if you wanted to. or you could just make these shorter, and instead of having multiple compartments, you can just totally make this where it is just all one thing. All right, so let's get started with our cut list. So I am using 3 pieces of cedar picket at 30 inches long each, and then I need 3 pieces at 5 1/4 inch. Why 5 1/4? Because a cedar picket that is 6 inches wide is 5 1/4, and we want to make sure that we have the same amount of height on our 3 divider piece as well, our 2 end pieces and our center divider, as the cedar pickets themselves. So that's our cut list. Tool list, this one's actually going to be really pretty simple. We are going to need our tool list. Let me pop it up here real quick. We're going to need a saw to cut everything to length. We're going to need our brad nailer. Again, if you don't have a brad nailer, hammer and nails will totally be sufficient. And then we're going to need some wood glue. Outdoor projects, Titebond 3, waterproof. You're going to want Titebond 3. Don't use anything else because your stuff will fall apart, and then you'll email me and tell me that something went wrong, and I'll tell you you should have listened and used the right glue.
Not my fault.
That's it. All right, let's head over to the miter saw and let's get everything cut to length. Come on. All right, let's zip through this because this is going to be really, really quick. All we are going to do is we are going to form a box, just like we always do with a lot of our projects. And if you're new to woodworking, you'll realize that the fundamentals of making a box is going to be exactly what you need in every single thing that you do out in your shop. You can turn a box into a million different things. So, all right, let's run us a bead of glue down one edge of our base. And then we're just going to tack this in place. Now this piece is going to mount on the side, not on the top. We want to have this mounted here so that we have as much space as we can have in between. Sorry, I've got a piece that needs to come off. We want to have as much room in here as we can to get our soil and our stuff. If we were to put this on top, it's going to eliminate a lot of our width. And you could see me measuring just a second ago. And the cut list that you saw at the beginning is going to be different than what I vocalized because of what I just saw just now. So just goes to prove that, you know, a lot of this is done on the fly. So we're just going to tack this in place. And then we're going to flip this around and we're going to repeat for our other side. When I mentioned earlier that the cut list was a little bit off, and this right here is why you never, ever, ever put your thumb close to your brad nailer. Look at this. I had some blowout, even though I was doing it correctly. You got to be really careful. Safety first. Let's pop another brad in there because don't have anything in here holding this. All right. So our pieces are going to go here on the end. As you can see, my measurements were wrong on these 3 pieces. We need them to be shorter. And I forgot to take off the thickness of this piece. Hopefully this will show up on camera. When we put this in here, we're off the same thickness of this board. My mistake. It happens. So we're going to head back over to the miter saw and we're going to remove. Now check your cedar pickets because your cedar pickets might be a little bit different in thickness. Mine is exactly 1/2 inch thick. So I'm going to take off 1/2 inch from these 3 pieces. Then when they go in here and get tacked and glued in place, they're going to be level with the top of our other boards. So I'll be right back. 1/2 inch. So these are cut. Now when they go in, look, how about that? They level up. If I would have done it right the first time, we'd be all right. So we're going to put glue on 3 sides. Drop this in place. Make sure you clean up your glue now instead of after the fact. And we're just going to drop this in place. Pop it with a couple of brads, and then repeat for the other end and then the center. All right, that is it. A couple cedar pickets, actually less than 2 cedar pickets, and we have this cool cedar planter. When this thing turns gray outside and the plants are in it and they start to bloom next spring, this thing is going to look awesome. If you're going to build this longer than 30 inches, make sure you add another brace. I'd say for every foot you go, add a little brace of some sort just to give this outside cedar picket some stability. We learned how to make a box a few episodes ago, and as you can see, the concept of making a box is something you're going to use in almost all of your basic shop projects on your woodworking journey. So learn to make a box, learn to make it a couple different ways with a couple different joints, and you open up a world of possibilities for projects you can make. Now, I made this as a planter, but check this out. This could absolutely get mounted on your wall in either direction, and you now have a shelf. This could go in your bathroom if you have a rustic shelf, or if you want to make this out of some nicer wood, this could totally go in your bathroom. Pop you a couple things of TP and
TP for my bunghole?
And some decorations, and you have a nice little bathroom cabinet to store all your stuff that you need while you're in the bathroom. There you go. Boxes. Learn to make them. You're going to use them in a ton of projects. That's it. Project 2 is a wrap. It's time to get on to section 3. Let's talk about some tools you might need out in your shop. Let's do this. All right, so real quick, I want to do section 3 today and talk to you guys about some tools and equipment for your shop that I personally believe should be some of your first purchases as a beginner woodworker. Now, some of these might be a little controversial with some more advanced woodworkers. Let me know down below in the comments your thoughts. This is just what I would buy if I was starting out my woodworking shop and needed some tools to kind of get me through. So if you have a difference of opinion, let me know down in the comments. Let's talk about it. So first thing I would recommend, I personally wish I would have done this sooner, is a good quality miter saw. I started out years ago with a standard Delta 10-inch saw that served its purpose, but it could do angled cuts and nothing more. The blade was 10-inch in diameter, so I was limited to my thickness of material. I would say buy yourself the biggest, baddest, most functions in the saw that you can afford. My saw is a 12-inch diameter. It is a compound saw, meaning it gives me not only angled cuts but beveled cuts, and it does slide, which means I can cut up to a 2x12 or a 1. I don't know how far it'll go on a 1x, but I know on a 2-inch I can do a 2x12 all the way through with one cut. So I would say get yourself a good quality miter saw. Now, some of you in the comments might think a table saw is more of a first saw. Financially, a lot of people can't afford a table saw. Even a contractor saw is going to be something you could consider. But as someone who's had a contractor saw, I personally would rather have started with my miter saw than a contractor's table saw. Just my 2 cents. But that's where I would start. So second thing, and I think everyone's going to be in agreement with this, when you're first starting out, you cannot have enough clamps. I love Jorgensen clamps. That has become my standard clamp here in my shop with very few exceptions. I do have some Rockler. I use the Rockler spring clamps, but there are other options available if you're on a budget. Down in the links, comments below. I will put some links to a couple different brands of spring clamps, but you need spring clamps. These things are invaluable out in your shop. And trigger clamps. These are the two things I would start with out in your shop. And until you get into gluing panels together, building cabinetry, etc., these are going to be the two that you are going to use almost daily out in your shop. Trigger clamps, I'd get a couple 6-inch, couple 12-inch. Get what you can to start, because the reality is you cannot have enough clamps. So stock up when you first start. The third thing I would recommend are some good measuring devices. Now, you can start out with some kind of simple square like this. This is going to give you the ability to draw a straight line. This is going to also allow you to draw a 45, and this is going to allow you to take a pretty good measurement, put this up against your material, run your pencil with it, and get a fairly straight line. Now, this is what I would really recommend. This is made by Incra. Now, Incra makes some really nice precision tools. This particular unit has a ton of laser cut holes that allow you to put a mechanical pencil in. Put your aluminum stop up against the edge of your material, find your measurement, put your pencil in, guide this along. This is going to be extremely precise, all the way down to 64ths of an inch. Again, links will be down below. This was $20 a couple months ago when I did one of my Amazon videos, and a lot of you guys were lucky to get it. I think it's still only like $28, which is literally like $16 or $17 than Rockler and Woodcraft. So talking about measurement, get yourself a good quality tape measure. The difference between a $30 tape measure and a $5 tape measure is tremendous. Not only the longevity of how long you're going to be able to keep that in your shop, how durable it is. Measurements on a $4.99 tape measure are not very precise. I have seen a tape measure at 5 or 6 feet be off almost half an inch, because an inch isn't an inch. So make sure you're getting yourself some good quality measuring devices out in your shop. That is going to be beneficial. Now, the next two might be a little controversial for me and what I do here in my shop. These two have been invaluable, and I would recommend that you consider these two among your first purchases out in your shop. Number one is going to be a cordless brad nailer. This is absolutely the best purchase I have made in my shop ever. And I have a lot of tools. I've got a planer and a router table and a table saw, and I have pretty much a full shop, but this has been my favorite purchase. I cannot get enough use out of this. And this particular brand, I haven't had a single jam or malfunction in here. This has been spot on, and I promise this is something you guys will use on 90% of your projects, and you're going to love it. You're never going to go back to hammer and nails, or even, this is what I started with. You're not going to even want to go back to this, because that freaking air hose dragging around your shop is absolutely infuriating. It's like if you've ever bought a cordless weed eater, whether it's battery powered or gas powered, and you're like, why the hell was I using that old weed eater with the 50-foot cable I was having to drag around? Same thing. You'll never ever go back, and you'll be glad you bought it. And then finally, something else I think you guys might want to break down and purchase is a good quality pocket hole jig. I love Craig's products. There's another brand out there I'm not going to mention that makes some really good stuff. A little pricey. If you're a beginner, you can pick up a small Craig jig for like 25, 30 bucks. The one I started out with years ago, I had to clamp it to my workbench and then clamp the material in. It had no vacuum port. It was very basic. And even that, I think, was less than $100. I'm currently using the 720 Pro, which is absolutely phenomenal. And if it's in your budget, I would highly recommend it. The vacuum port is spot on. There's literally like 99.9% of my sawdust and my shavings and everything else gets sucked up. And I don't know why I'm struggling today thinking in words. It's like, but yeah, the Craig jig is phenomenal, and I would highly recommend starting out learning to use a pocket hole jig, because that is going to be something you can use all the time out in your shop. I use it on all my planters that I build. We built a table on our intermediate series out of 2x4s a couple months ago, and we used pocket holes for that. I think you'll find After you purchase it, you'll be glad you did and wish you would have done it sooner. But today I just wanted to go over a few things that I think you guys might need when you're first starting out on your woodworking journey. Again, let's keep it up, man. Let's be with the cool kids and let's use that word journey on everything we talk about today, because that's what you do on social media, right? Everybody's on a journey. So we're on one too. So let's join them. But last thing before I let you go today, talked about I had something special for you guys today. So we hit 10,000 subscribers a couple days ago, which blew me away because never thought I'd get there, let alone as fast as we did. So I want to give back. You guys have supported me, and now I want to give back to you. And here's what we're going to do. I know I give away stuff occasionally on the beginner series where, I'll pick a shop tool around 40 bucks or something and pick someone randomly and ship it to them. I think I've given away 3 or 4 different items so far. But on this one, let's do something really big. However many subscribers we get off of this video, I'll match it with $1 per subscriber. Then we'll give away something big. If we can get 250 subscribers off this video, I can give away something like this. If we get 140, I'll give away a Craig pocket hole jig. I'll match it $1 for subscriber, hook you guys up with a really cool tool. Now, in order to be entered, you have to comment below this video. Every single comment that I receive is a random entry into the drawing. $1 match for subscribers. Your comments is the entry fee. Couldn't be more simple. You might wind up with a really cool tool. Now look, if you guys like go all crazy and we get 600 or 700 subscribers on this, I'm going to keep my word. I'm going to get you guys a cool tool, but damn, if y'all want to do it, let's do it. Tell your friends, family, join up. Turn on those notifications while they're there. And as always, please give us a thumbs up. It takes you 3 seconds to click the button on your screen that looks like this, not that looks like this, that looks like this. That helps out our channel more than anything. That's all I got for you today. As always, I appreciate you taking some time from your day to check out our content. That's all I got. We will see you next time. Catch you on YouTube.